Hey y'all, happy Wednesday. So we're going to start in Ephesians chapter 1 and verse 4. Now, I would encourage you, one thing I have heard in learning how to study the Bible is to read these epistles, these letters of Paul all the way through. So Ephesians has 6 chapters, and I have done this with Galatians, and it just you can tell that Galatians is different in my Bible because there is so much written and underlined and highlighted. If you go through and read the entire book, now this is not Leviticus, so it's not just laws, and it's not Deuteronomy, so it's not just laws, and it's not genealogy. This is letters of Paul disclosing the revelation that Jesus had given to him about the church. And so I encourage you, if you have time, if you're looking for something to read, and particularly if you're going along with us in daily devos, that you just choose to read all of Ephesians, even if it's one chapter a day. If you can sit down and read the whole 6 chapters, do that. I don't think it would take an astronomical amount of time, but if you read it as one letter, because that's how Paul wrote it. Paul didn't write it in chapter and verse. He didn't divide it up like that. When we canonized the Bible, we did that to divide it and to make reference and easier to find certain things. But this was a whole letter that Paul wrote to the church in Ephesus, which, by the way, was the largest church. The church in Ephesus was the largest church. So, Paul starts his letter and he says, even as in his love, he chose us. He actually picked us out for himself as his own in Christ before the foundation of the world, that we should be holy, consecrated, and set apart for him, and blameless in his sight, even above reproach, before him in love. It's all about what he's done. It's not about what we've done. And if we could just get a small piece of that and meditate on that, this whole thing right here, this whole love letter from the Father, it's not about what we've done, but it's about what he's done in pursuit of us. His lavish love over us. And Paul even says it in this verse twice about God's love. Even as in his love, he chose us. You were handpicked by the Father. We read in John last Sunday that the Good Shepherd, and I'm going to get there now and read it because it bears reading again. So back in John chapter 10, verse 3. So the sheep listen to his voice and heed it. He calls his own sheep by name and brings them or leads them out. He chose you. He has called to you. It's just like when Jesus is talking to his disciples and he says, who do people say that I am? They say, some say you're Elijah, some say you're John the Baptist, and some other prophets. And then he says, but who do you say that I am? And Peter says, well, you are the Christ, the Son of the living God. Jesus says, blessed are you, for flesh and blood have not revealed this to you, but God. God has called to us, and we have heard. And he calls to everybody. The word tells us that he desires that none should perish. But do we have ears to hear? Are we listening? So he has called us out in love. He has chosen us, actually picked us out for himself as his own in Christ before the foundation of the world. Before he ever spoke the first, let there be, he had already chosen you. Now that's pretty powerful. As old as the earth is, and even before, things that we don't even know about, before the foundations, he chose you, and he chose me. Knowing good and well what we would do, who we would be, how we would have to try it again. If you're a Daniel Tiger mom, we have to keep trying and you'll get better, right? No matter how much he saw that we would have to keep trying and keep trying, he chose us. He knew that it would all be worth it because we fit into his plan. We'll pick up here tomorrow. I'll see you then. Bye, y'all.